Garden Side Chat. So today I'm going to put on my Dr. Trina hat. I actually want to talk to you about something that's very serious. It's actually become an epidemic in our country and in our world. And it is really our crisis with mental health. How can we deal with mental health? How is our world handling mental health? And what can we do to help prevent, help lessen some of the symptoms of stress? Some great things that we can do naturally that could kind of crush this crisis with mental health. But first, just a little background with me. My degree is in child psychology. I work in behavioral management for many years. My ultimate goal was to become a pediatrician. That's where I wanted to go. I went to the University of Minnesota. My goal was to just be a licensed pediatrician and to work with children. I always felt called with children. Unfortunately, I became ill and I wasn't able to complete that dream. My focus has always been on nutrition, prevention. That's always where I wanted that to go. So when I worked in behavioral management, I worked with different families, primarily with autism, with ADHD, things like that. I tried to work on different behavioral plans, and the goal was to keep or to get children off of medication. Unfortunately, my challenge and why I became burnt out in that area was not with the children. It was generally working with the parents and trying to get them to line up with the plans that I had. And a lot of it was, I'll give you an example. I would go into a home and I would assess, just kind of assess what was going on in the home. I would see how they fed their children, how they acted, and just kind of try to give them some suggestions. For example, I would see maybe Costco-sized boxes of Fruit Loops and Lucky Charms and white bread and processed bologna and just for examples, high C drinks and things like that. And then they'd wonder why their kids were bouncing off the walls all day. This is what they were, hot dogs. And so, it's not like I would say, you got to stop buying all of this. But I would try to offer suggestions. Like, could we try maybe some different cereal and add fruit in it, or try maybe putting some natural sugars or honeys on it and then decrease that, but it was such a challenge, and some of the families would end up just putting their children on medication to make it simpler for them. So these were the things that I did, and it was kind of a fight as far as within myself. And I just got to the point where, well, if that's just what they were going to do, I just didn't want to do it anymore, because just kind of destroying the purpose that I felt that my mission was and what I was there for. So anyway, so that's my background. That's kind of, that, and then my health and how I've seen what changing my lifestyle and nutrition has done. That's kind of why I feel passionate about this. So I've actually really lived it. I've studied it. And yeah, so anyway, I've just kind of been doing some studies. I'm just going to throw some facts out there. And then I just want you to take what you can. And if you can use it for your benefit, then go for it. This has to do with what is going on in the world. Why are we seeing such an increase in mental health, depression, anxiety, suicide rates, psychiatric? So, the statistics are startling. Between 2007 and 2019, adolescents reporting a major depression episode increased by 60%. And tragically, during a similar time frame, The suicide death rate among 10 to 24-year-olds increased 56%. So the issue isn't confined to young people. In 2020, anxiety and depression increased globally by 25%. So depression and anxiety rates exploded so rapidly that at the end of 2021, the US Surgeon General declared a devastating, quote, national mental health crisis. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, we're in this crisis. What is happening? And what, President Biden, he quoted as saying, as a part of this unity agenda, he will announce a strategy to address our national mental health crisis. So everybody's calling this a mental health crisis. It's huge. It's this big topic today. What is going on? What is happening? So the rates of mental and psychiatric illness have skyrocketed in the last decade. Internationally, there has been at least fivefold rate increase of ADHD or higher, and in 20% or higher in autism, and 40-fold or higher in bipolar disorders in children. So the amounts of people that are on disability due to psychiatric and mental health disabilities has increased overwhelmingly. Rates of mental illness, they're on the rise, and how are we dealing with it? Our healthcare system, what they're doing is the pharma companies, our healthcare system, the first thing they do is they offer psychiatric or mental health medications. That's the first thing they do. They throw out a pill. The second thing is they offer some sort of therapy. And then thirdly, they offer other kinds of support. Why are mental disorders, why are we in a crisis? Why are these increasing? While that may help in short term, overall rate in mental health has over doubled. Now, I'm not dismissing antidepressants. I know that they have been helpful. I know that with many people, they've saved lives. So I'm absolutely not dismissing that. However, shouldn't the rate of disability decrease when increasing use of medication treatments instead of increasing the disabilities over time? Shouldn't we be decreasing with the use of treatment? That is a good reason we should question the roles of medications are playing in these disorders. When we take these class of medications like antidepressants, anti-anxieties, antipsychotics, the results are the same. Short-term uses are very effective. Long-term uses make the disorders worse. For example, Ritalin and antidepressants. They've been effective in treating in short term, but in long term, they've caused anxiety, chemical dependency, and children treated with antidepressants are 3 times more likely to convert to bipolar disorders than children who were not treated with them. Looking at use of medication is something that we really need to take into account. What are our options? What are the other options that we have? Optimizing nutrition is a safe and variable way to avoid, treat, and prevent mental illness. Nutrition matters, and it plays a significant role in mental illness. Poor nutrition is a modifiable risk factor for the development of mental illness. Food and mood go together. They do. Food and mood matter. Conversely, as an inadequate diet can lead to fatigue, impaired decision making, and can slow down reaction time. In fact, a poor diet can aggravate and may lead to stress and depression. If you eat lots of processed meats, fried foods, refined cereals, candies, pastries, high fat dairy products, you're more likely to be anxious and depressed. A full diet rich in omega fatty acid 3s, fruits, vegetables, fish, those kind of keep you more on an even keel. I mean, studies have shown that. The effects of certain foods or dietary patterns on a glycemia, immune activation, and the gut microbiome may play a role in the relationship between the food and the moon. I preach that it starts in the gut health. It starts in the gut health. I have scientific proof and evidence that they are saying that's true with mental health as well. It's almost like your full well-being. And it's the truth. I mean, I want us to be mind, spirit, body, all of us to be full health. Now, I mean, I'm not saying you have to do it all overnight, but it starts with our children. Let's try to not be giving them all these processed foods and drinks. I mean, we're setting them up for failure from the very beginning, and it's crushing. I mean, I saw it firsthand, and it was so frustrating to me. And we're seeing it as a crisis and an epidemic, and it's something that we can control. It does not cost that much money to grow your own food. Eating fresh fruits and vegetables is cheaper than spending all this money at the doctor's office. I don't know how else to say it. I really don't. It's so frustrating to me. I just want to, anyway, the inflammatory effects of a diet high in calories and saturated fat have been proposed as a mechanism through which the Western diet may have detrimental effects on brain health, including cognitive decline, hippocampal dysfunction, and damage to blood-brain barrier. Since various mental health conditions, include mood disorders, have been linked to heightened inflammation, this mechanism also presents a pathway through which poor diet could increase the risk of depression. So this actually study comes from the gut to brain dysbiosis, and then the mechanisms linking Western diet consumption, the microbiome, and cognitive impairment. So these are actual studies that have been done for years. And it's characteristics of greater consumption of foods that are associated with inflammation, like the trans fatties and the refined carbohydrates, and the lower intake of nutritious foods, which are thought to have anti-inflammatory properties, like omega fatty 3s. Those are the ones that are super helpful, not only in your all over nutrition, but as far as your mental health as well. It really makes a big difference at what you are putting in your body. It just does. So a recent study found that the ingestion of probiotics by healthy individuals, which therapeutically targeted the gut, can alter the brain's response to a task that requires emotional attention, and may even reduce symptoms of depression. When viewed together, these studies provide promising evidence supporting a role of the gut microbiome in modulating processes that regulate emotion in the human brain. So, how are nutrition and mental health linked? Healthy eating, it helps children and young people cope more effectively with stress, better manage their emotions, and get good sleep, all which assist in learning, all which help stress management, and all are over well health and being. So, I mean, these are just so important. And we want to set ourselves up, for success from the time we're young up until today. So most research about nutrition and mental health has focused on adults. We know that good nutrition with better mental health outcomes, whereas a poor diet is associated with a risk of depression and anxiety. However, emerging research that focuses on children and young people has also found a relationship between unhealthy diets and poor mental health outcomes. So poor nutrition, it's been associated with externalizing behaviors such as hyperactivity and aggression and disobedience, symptoms of attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I mean, I have seen that over and over and over and over and over and over. Even with my own children. I mean, I like my mom saw it when I told her, do not give anything like the high C with the red number dye or the jello or the, and I had one child in particular and she didn't believe me. He was climbing the walls and I said, you're not bringing him home until this is out of his system. And so, it makes a difference. It really does. Immune system function is also linked. Now, I have seen that personally in my own life. I mean, I know when I eat like a lot of sugar or just a lot of refined food, I feel horrible the next day. Like, I feel like I've been run over by a truck. Like, I literally can hardly get out of bed. Just feel awful. It makes a big difference. Iron deficiency has also been linked to cognitive function impairment and associated with learning and memory. So, that's what's really good about getting those dark leafy greens and just having a whole well-rounded nutrition. And, they really look at even the Mediterranean diet, which is, high in really good fish, like the salmon. They eat like a lot of fish and nuts and the leafy greens and things like that. So those are, so I would just really, if you struggle just with some depression or even just any kind of physical ailments, I would really first just stop and look at your diet. Diet. And then the other thing is just adding exercise into my life. When I'm done here, I am taking a walk before work. So just little things like that. It might not be a super long walk, but I am just trying to incorporate some sort of exercise, movement, even if I do stretching in the morning. Every single day I'm trying to do something, whether it's just even going out in my garden, which I try not to count that as exercise because that's just my daily habit. But I know that I feel so much better and it makes a big difference for my life. So these things that I'm bringing to you, I practice myself. I know when I don't feel good, I'm very depressed and down as well. And this, like I say, I don't journal. I'm terrible at that. These things that I'm sharing with you, I'm watching my life progress as well on YouTube, on social media. But I also want to bring these things to you. Not only stuff that I have learned over the years, that I've seen over the years, but I've experienced over the years. And now we are in a crisis. And when there are things that we can do about it that are naturally, and there is also, what was her name? There is also a doctor, she's from Canada. She did some studies that they did high doses of micronutrients, which were like omegas and things like that. And it was insane. Like they did placebos and then they did the micro, and I'm not just talking going and getting one supplement. They did like 50% the recommended dose. And it was like night to day. Like people were not on there was a 10-year-old who 6 months was in the hospital with delusions and all kinds of just severe psychosis. 6 months, highly medicated treatment, nothing was working. So they came in and did the micronutrients, which cost 2% of the treatment. 2%. Like I'm talking, if they would just look at this, it's so frustrating. But I don't even want to get into the pharmaceutical companies and the money and but like I said, once they start doing the medication over long term, look what's happening. We're in a crisis. It's causing a dependency and it's making things worse. But anyway, back. So they did this, they put him on all of these supplements. And years later, he has not had one delusion, not one psychosis, not one, but he's continued to stay on it. And that's another thing with they've done studies and they've had people who have had like schizophrenia, they've had people who they've stayed on the recommended doses, and they've had people that have gone on in ADHD, they've gone off them and they have had problems, but the people that have stayed on them, it has made significant improvements. So nutrition makes such a huge impact on so much of what our whole well-being. I'll be honest, it was not an overnight process with me, and I still, I like I said, I can tell if I'm not eating right or if I'm having junk. But I do know, I mean, if you guys knew, I mean, some of you know me, from years back. You guys can comment below when you remember when I was in the hospital. Even my kids, when you remember when I lived in Minneapolis, when I lived in Burnsville, and I didn't work. I was in bed. I was, I was very sick for a very long time, and there wasn't much I did. So you all remember that. And if you came out and saw me now, or even you can see what I do on my videos. I garden, I clean, I work full time. I mean, that's just amazing, so what nutrition can do. But anyway, back to this epidemic. I just wanted to leave with a few more things. Nutrition deficiencies, which have been associated with mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety. We know that fruits and vegetables, grains, fish, lean red meats, olive oils, oh my gosh, good oils, you guys, are rich in important nutrients such as folate, magnesium, vitamins, and zinc, which all impact the body and brain function, including the mood regulation. That is so important. So important. Like the whole balance, but really, especially those fish and vegetables and good ones. We don't want to just get, that's another thing, is like what people don't realize is that our soils have been so depleted and our animals have been injected with antibiotics and to be honest with you, I mean, I'm not saying this to put all kinds of fear in you, because I am a firm believer in the Bible, and I am firm believer that God also heals. So I know that one thing is, we do what we can with where we're at. And there is a reason that God said in the Bible that no poisonous thing shall harm you, because he knew what was coming on this earth. But I also believe that we are to be wise. And when we can grow our own food and when we can control what we put in our bodies, we are to do that. But we also need to bless our food. If you're not blessing your food, bless your food. And you know what I mean? Pray, because we don't always control everything that's in it. I remember when I used to be head teacher in the nursery at our really large church, we used to bless the bottles for the babies, and I would do that with my grandkids too. I would pray over his little bottle, and bless it. And my grandkids are healthy. So, but you know what? Bless your food. Just trust God, and we need to do the best that we can. So anyway, so also food insecurity, where people don't have enough food due to, unemployment or poverty. That's also, that also is a big problem. And you could also see that affects academic wise, depression, socioeconomical factors, and crime rates, stress, depression, anxiety, aggression, difficulty getting along with others. I mean, that makes a difference. So, I just wish we could go, if you look at communities of people where they grow and they help each other out, I just wish we could get back to that, just good food, people. But anyway, psychological stress, high levels of ongoing stress have been related to depression, delayed brain development, poor academic performance, time off from school, anxiety, aggression, difficulty getting along with others. The good news here, let's get some good news at all that. Okay, we want some good news. Improving what you eat can lead to improvements in your mental health, so it's never ever too late to encourage healthier eating patterns. It's never too late. You just start where you're at. I'm a testimony to that. Start where you're at. I still take medications, but guess what? I'm lower them. I've significantly lowered them. I had to take an antipsychotic medication as a migraine prevention for so many years. I took super high doses. It's called Topamax. You guys look it up. My doctors, we used to call it Dopamax or Stupamax because it literally would make me dumb. Like, I'm not even kidding. An antipsychotic. It is an anti-seizure medication is literally what it was. But I am telling you, my migraines were so bad. I had over 200 hospital stays in 2 years. And I was on so much medication to stop those migraines that I took antipsychotic medications, antidepressants, so many medications as migraine preventants for so many years that I took such my neurologists know this, high doses of that medication. And literally I couldn't even take the generic kind. I had to take the actual name brand medication of that or I would get severe migraines. So I still take a very low dose of that because I'm getting myself off of that. But I took such high doses for years, probably 20 years. So I'm talking about how your body it is dependent on stuff for so long. But that's what I'm talking about. I have changed my diet. So my goal is to become off all medications. I am an open book here. I share it all with you. I practice what I preach. So I've seen what this does. But I also know that there comes a time and a place. I mean, I literally have been shocked back to life. I was given 24 hours to live. I had 7 blood transfusions in a 24-hour period. I've been through it all. So I know what nutrition can do. I know what living a good life can do. But I also know there comes a time and a place where sometimes people do need medication. So we need to start where we're at, not feel condemned, not that's not what it's about. But I do know the power of good food as well, good nutrition, and that if we do give our body what it needs, God has designed it to heal itself. So we just need to start where we're at and just, do what we can. This is not about feeling bad about anything, but let's just do the best that we can and try to put good things into our body. Our body is a temple, so let's just try to put good things in, do the best that we can, right? So, let's make big changes, but start small. Even like I always say, start by drinking more water, and good water. Let's not, start if you don't have a water purifier, well, boil your water. It's okay. You don't have to, don't go spend a ton of money. Because honestly, when you buy water in the store, it still leaches plastic from the bottle. So it's like you darned if you do and you darned if you don't. So, just do what you can where you're at. Start with drinking more water and then try to add some more fruits and vegetables, into your diet. And the other thing is try to not eat processed foods. And you know what? It might seem harder to do, but it actually is cheaper. So if you start by cooking your own foods and watch some of those videos that I've did as far as meal prepping and making the freezer dump meals and the freezer meals, cook the meals ahead of time, put them in the freezer so you just have to pull something out and you'll throw it in a crock pot and you have dinner. So yeah, just start where you're at, baby steps, little steps make big changes. So that's one. And get rid of the sugary cereals and the sugary drink. There are different ways that you can, I always found when you crave something or want something, there's always a healthy alternative somehow. It might take you a little bit of time to get to where you like it, but try to just, the high fructose corn syrup, the high processed and chemical laced foods. Read labels. There's so much of that out there. And let's get back to the foods that our bodies are meant to have. Just let our bodies heal with real foods. And one thing that I started doing with, and you might think this is silly, but it's just something that I do with food. I look at the food and I say, is this going to bring my body health or sickness? Or is it going to bring my body life? Or is it going to bring my body death? That's just what I ask myself before I put it in my mouth. I'm not perfect, but you know what? I'm learning. And well, anyway, I hope that was helpful to all of you. If any of you do really suffer from depression, or you do, reach out, and get some help. Talk to somebody. I Therapy is really a beneficial thing. There is nothing wrong with therapy, but even in the Bible, Jesus came to heal the brokenhearted. So even in the Bible, God knew that there was going to be hurting people out there, and we need help. So, if you need help finding where to go to get help, I have an email. You can reach out to me, and I'm happy to do that. Help find something somewhere in your area. Let's just do our best to start where we're at, and let's really show them that we can not call this a mental health crisis. We can really show that we can change it around, and look at it as an opportunity to show that we want to change, and we want to be the abnormal and really live more healthy, and maybe a little more simply, less stress, better food, more water, a little more exercise. So anyway, all right, you guys, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'm going to go for a little walk. All right? Have a great day. Be blessed. Bye.